Welcome along to 98 Not Out. A really good guest for you today. I'm joined by James MUKHERJEE, who's, if you've been watching evening TV on the BBC recently, one of the standout shows has been Race Across the World, and James has been taking part in it. James, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Good. Because we're a cricket show, we'll start off talking about cricket. We'll get on to Race Across the World in a minute, but you were quite a talented young prospect. What age did you start playing cricket?
From as soon as I remember, really. I think I got into it properly when I was probably 6 or 7 years old, playing for the under 9 sort of local side. But I think I've been told stories and things that I was batting and bowling and catching since I could walk and hold a bat, really. So, yeah, it goes back a long way. But yeah, really sort of playing games and the midweek games when I was 6 or 7.
Did your dad play? Was that how you got the interest?
Yeah, it was my dad mainly. He got my older brother into it as well. So he would coach at the local team, which was Skipton at the time. And he would play in the first team on a Saturday. So I'd be down there watching and playing bin cricket and things on the side as you do. And yeah, that's sort of how it sort of got into the family. We're a very sporty family, so we've been in sport, and cricket was sort of the main one for the males in our family. Yeah.
Yeah, my son it's a similar story with him. He's I played cricket before. I mean, not to any particular level, but my wife's from Harrogate, which is not too far from where you are. And
Yeah.
that side of the family are all proper Yorkshire club cricketers, so kind of inevitable. So I see a lot of parallels between my kids and you and your sister, um, in personality, especially you and Christian are almost identical, both in looks and personality, which is a
Right.
good thing. I say it's a good thing.
I was going to
Um,
say, what are you comparing me to?
yeah. So and then you managed to sort of get picked up by Yorkshire.
Yeah, so that started sort of under 10, under 11s with the age group sort of stuff. Started off as North Yorkshire and a bit of like regional county things, and then when you go for trials and you get picked up, you're sort of on the sort of list then. And in football, you sort of have the pyramid, don't you? In cricket, it's sort of the same thing. It's a pathway of towards that professional goal. So, but at the time, it wasn't really something I thought about or realised that what was going on. Um, so it was sort of just enjoy it year by year. You went to trials, you saw people who you'd see every single year and a few new faces, and then it sort of just kept going and going and until it sort of got serious when, contracts and pen to paper and sort of that sort of stuff came into it.
Yeah. You got as far as Yorkshire twos, didn't you?
Yes. Your second team was as far as I got. I played a handful of games for them. Um, you know, halted by injuries and COVID, I think, at the time. So, but yeah, I gave it a good crack and enjoyed every moment of it.
Did you play alongside any well-known names?
Many well-known names. Gary Balance was probably the sort of most well-renowned, probably. Matt Fisher trained with, the Yorkshire first team from 16 all the way up to 19. So, bowling at the likes of Joe Root and even sort of Australia Ashes teams and World Cup teams and things. So, I think I actually managed to snick off Steve Smith once, which was quite nice.
Oh, lovely.
One for the memories, but yeah.
So your cricketing career came to an
Mm.
end, and now you are well known for Race Across the World. For people that aren't aware of this program, it's into
Yeah.
its fourth series, I believe now. Um, it's great. The concept being that you have 4 or 5 teams that are given a start and a finish destination and have to get there without using a plane, but they're given the plane fare in order to get to the end. Now, you took part with your sister Betty, and there was it 4 or 5 other teams that raced with you?
There's 5 in total, so us and 4 others, yeah.
Yeah. Um, Without going into any kind of boring detail, how did it come about?
So we'd watched the show as a family, and I think we just said simply we could do that. Like it looks like a good challenge, looks a bit of fun. We could give it a go, and how hard can it be, sort of thing. How very wrong we were. It was very tough, but it was sort of Betty's just doing really, and she got the application forms, sorted it all out, and on the last day of application, I got home to a form, a piece of paper on my bed, and was told to fill it out. So we just went from there.
So when you're at the start of it, And now in this one, you started in northern Japan.
Yeah.
Are you told then that your end point will be Indonesia, or are you just told where the checkpoint is going to be?
So we know where the final checkpoint is. We're told, we sort of found that out, and then we're only told where the next checkpoint is. And then at every checkpoint, we find out where the next checkpoint is. So when we got to Sokcho, for example, the second checkpoint, we'd only find out then that our third checkpoint was Phnom Penh. So there's no sort of future planning, and that was the hardest thing about it, was the unknown factor of going into different countries and different languages, and yeah, just having no idea what the sort of plan is and how to strategize at all.
Yeah, you couldn't be more different. Sort of going to the. Have you ever been to the Far East before?
No, we've been to India once, when I was 5, but even then I can't remember much of that. But this was, yeah, as far sort of east as I've gone.
Yeah, and it's yeah. I mean, you've got language barriers. I mean, just even in the first sort of couple of episodes where you're going through Japan, I was amazed. The sort of the writing is different. The people.
Yeah,
I think in Japan there were a few that spoke English. You get by, but the longer the journey went on, particularly once you got into Java and places like that, then there were people that weren't speaking English, and language barriers became a
yeah,
huge problem.
yeah. I mean, the more westernized sort of places tended to speak more sort of English, like Japan. There was those people who could, you know, sort of tell what we were saying and communicate a little bit better. But the more sort of rural areas, and Indonesia especially, was maybe one in, I don't know, 100 people spoke English probably. So it was tough. It was definitely a challenge.
And I mean, I gather that it's tough, but I mean, what is the reality of the journey? I mean, obviously you've got a cameraman or a camera crew with you. Are there times when you're just completely on your own, or have you always got someone with you?
There's always that team sort of behind us. As you see sort of in the reunion episode, if sort of viewers listened to that and tuned in, you see there's always a team of people, and they were great. We really got on with ours, and just a massive thank you to sort of all those people who, made the opportunity possible. And we do get a lot of questions on sort of that team and crew aspect. And I'd just go and say, watch the reunion, because it's a good sort of insight into sort of the way it's conducted behind the scenes.
Yeah. And I think you and Betty are now up for TV moment of the year, where Betty opened up on her MRKH syndrome health
Mm.
issue, and then your reaction to that was you know the world came to a halt with the raw emotion of it, and the cameraman kind of breaking the fourth wall and stopping to give you a hug. Absolutely incredible moment, and it just showed all of a sudden, the strength of bond between the two of you.
Yeah, I think what it does is just shows the sort of reality and sort of raw emotion of the show and what it actually sort of puts people through. And yeah, to sort of get the reaction and support we've had from it has been absolutely amazing. So just sort of thank you to everyone who's reached out or watched and tuned in, and hopefully it just inspires people to sort of speak out, whatever that might be, whether that be to do with sport or to do with your work or any sort of mental health or whatever it is you're going through. Just speak to someone, because there's always got power in that. And I didn't mean to sort of get the reaction I got, but it's sort of blown up. So if I can do it, then anyone should feel like they can.
Yeah, I think that definitely came across with the sort of the rawness of it in the show. So it's a race, hence
Yeah,
race across the world. But you go to these places, and particularly on this journey, there must have been the temptation to just think, I'm only going to be here once. I've got to go and sidetrack, and I've got to go and look at that. I've got to go and look at Angkor Wat, or I've got to go and see this or that or the other. Did you have to strike a balance between the temptation to do that or the actual chance to do that, but then reminding yourself we're in a race and we need
yeah.
to push on?
Yeah, so I think in all the teams there was a difference between one person who wanted to race and one who wanted to experience. And especially in mine and Betty's case, I was the race person, A to B as fast as possible. Betty was the more experienced, let's see things, let's make the most of it. And I think we found that balance quite well, in that, we got the most out of the city we were in. For example, Chiang Mai in Thailand, went and saw the boxing match, which was my sort of sports and competitive fix. And Betty saw the temple, the more cultural side. And then we sort of compromised and said, right, we're going to go race now. And it was sort of imperative that we did that. Otherwise, we'd have just, maybe had an argument or a fallout and not progressed in the way we did.
And the food looked amazing as well. right across the journey.
In some places, it was at the homestays where it was sort of fresh, and we'd contributed to making it. That was where it was really good. But there was sometimes we got off a bus in the middle of nowhere, and you could tell this food had been out for a few days, flies all over it. It was warm, but it wasn't cooked warm. It was just because of the heat. So that wasn't so nice. But yeah, we only got ill once, I think, which was quite lucky.
Oh, good, good. And the teams were all really interesting in their own. Everyone seemed to have their own dynamic. I mean, there was you and your sister. There was two mother and daughters.
Yeah.
An older married couple who were quite funny in themselves. Steve was a real character. And then the eventual winners, which were Owen and Alfie, young lads. I think everyone was rooting for either you or them to win it. But they came across really well. Do you still have any contact with those guys?
Yeah, so we're all in a big group chat together, which is nice. Keep each other updated on sort of what we're doing with lives now, and we've caught up quite a lot. Only a couple of weeks back, we were at the BBC One Big Weekender down in Luton. So went down and met everybody there, and yeah, we're still keeping contact. Alfie and I have been up to Leeds a couple of times. And it's sort of nice to just see everyone getting on with sort of normal life again, because we only really know them, from sort of race. So, but it is really nice. Everyone sort of got on really well, and you need that because there's only us sort of 10 people as a collective that know what we've been through. So to sort of share our experiences and thoughts, and in the future will be nice to have those people there.
Must be quite strange because I'm assuming this was done a year ago or last year at some point.
Yeah.
And to sort of then finish it, come home, and then that sort of weird period until it goes out on TV, and then you get hit with all the attention and whatever else. And I suppose now, particularly now that it's finished and everyone knows what's happened, how did you deal with that period in between filming and broadcasting?
I went on holiday, I think, and had a more chilled time. Had 2 weeks in the sun doing absolutely nothing. So that was good fun. But I think it's just you have to sort of adapt back into normal stuff. But between in the last 8 weeks of it being aired and on TV has been absolutely crazy. Sort of the following that's gone up on social media, is the recognition from people in the streets, even like photos being taken and things. It is a weird time, but it's one of those you got to sort of make the most of, because it's a once in a lifetime thing. And even now, I still get people saying, "Oh, is that you? Are you that guy?" That sort of thing. And I'm like, "Yeah, that is me." And it's just strange, but enjoyed it. Definitely enjoyed the time.
I don't know, fancy, and I think it's what an experience, what a once in a lifetime thing to do.
Absolutely.
The thing that always made me laugh though was, when you were getting to the checkpoints and then you were getting the little walkie-talkies, go to here, go to there.
Yeah.
And you're all completely worn out from the travel and the stress of trying to find places. And then you've got to spend the last leg of it just running, and usually up hills or up steps. And where did you get the energy?
I think it's just the adrenaline of being like, oh, we could be first here, but we also, there might be someone behind us, might be someone in front of us. Let's just try our best to sort of do what we can. And I think the fully adrenaline just took over in the excitement. There's always times when you'll just try a little bit harder because the end's in sight, or there's an opportunity there, or there's something to grasp. So I think for me anyway, it was just the adrenaline and wanting to potentially gain a few minutes or a place or so.
It's always that's a brilliant part of the program at the end where you come up and there's the book and the pen there, and that sort of split second before you open the book and see if you come first, second, or whatever.
Yeah, it's either excitement, like thrill, or disappointment that you've come last or whatever. So it's a sort of nervous moment, but that's what you work towards for those 4 or 5 days in between.
It's a brilliant show. It's an absolutely brilliant show, and yeah, we really enjoyed it, and thank you for all the entertainment. And thanks to your sister as well, and to everyone else that took part. James, I'll let you crack on. Many thanks for joining us on 98 Not Out. I wish you all the best. Just enjoy your life now. I know you've been through a fantastic experience, and you've come across absolutely brilliantly. And I think the whole nation's in love with you and your sister for what you've been through. So, thank you for joining us, and go well, mate.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us, and thank you for everyone that supported.